So the question is, okay, here's how adaptable systems work. We humans are an adaptable organism. We've been incredibly successful. We've covered the planet, and we've done amazing things. We had to be adaptable to do those things, but we've become kind of insulated from that process of selection that forced us, as this relatively weak, naked ape, to become the species that we are now. And you can see little throwbacks to our adaptable state when you look and talk to people who have been under a force of selection. And here I'm specifically talking about young officers and soldiers who have served for 10 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. And when I talk to these men and women, I see people who know how to adapt. They did amazing things under fire there. They adapted. They didn't go up and down the chain of command. They looked at what worked, and they just did it. And then they told their fellow officers and said, hey, I just did something over here that really got us a partnership with some of these Iraqis. You should try it. And then they started trying it, and they built off of those successes. And by the time higher command heard about this, it was working. So they didn't stop. And that kind of spirit of adaptability is why I always tell audiences, it's not a patriotic duty to hire veterans. It behooves you, if you're in an organization or a business, to hire veterans because these people know how to adapt. Most of us, fortunately, have been insulated from that daily struggle to survive that drives adaptation. So the question is, how do we jumpstart this process of adaptability in a safe way, in a way that doesn't get us killed, in a way that doesn't get us injured? And it turns out not to be as difficult as you would think. And remember, I don't talk about needing perfect solutions. I give this same talk to the Department of Homeland Security and to FEMA, and I say, you don't need to tear down the Department of Homeland Security and start again and build a Google-style Department of Homeland Security. You have what you have, work with it, and you can work with it. And the way you do it is by one simple switch. You switch from giving orders to issuing challenges. Giving orders is when one leader or a group of leaders says, here's what's best for all of you, go do it. Issuing a challenge is when that same leader says, we've got a real problem here. Who among you can help us solve that challenge? And an early example of this comes from the early 1700s in England, where one of the biggest challenges facing society was that sailors couldn't calculate their longitude at sea. And a lot of lives and a lot of ship and a lot of treasures were going to the bottom of the sea because sailors didn't know their exact coordinates. They could calculate their latitude, but not their longitude. Now, everyone thought that the great astronomers at the time would solve this problem. And it would have been easy to say, astronomers, go solve this problem. But what English Parliament did is say, anyone who can solve this challenge, give us your answers and we'll give you a big prize. And it turned out not to be an astronomer, but a watchmaker. A lonely watchmaker who invented a timepiece that could keep accurate time at sea relative to the home port, which then allowed sailors to calculate their longitude. So it was by giving that challenge beyond the usual group of experts that allowed them to solve this very important problem. Now, in general, challenge-based problem solving is a way to set off what I call an adaptive cascade. You don't want to adapt just once and say, oh, I solved that problem, I'm done. You want to set up a system that allows you or your organization to continually adapt.